Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Preston and Ryan coming with another episode of Adventure with Pictures. And today we got a special guest. We got Franny the Traveler.
Hey,
Hey, how you doing, Franny?
I'm doing good. How are both of you doing?
I'm doing okay. Just enjoying the weather as much as possible, on the East Coast.
Doing great over here. I'm loving it. Got the fresh cut a few days ago. I'm feeling good. Feeling good.
That's awesome. Yeah, East Coast too. I'm taking in the sun right now.
Me too. I'm actually looking at the sun. I'm like, oh, okay. I still got a little snow out there, but it is what it is.
For sure.
So yeah, so I want to just kind of just jump right into it and say, hey, who is Franny the Traveler?
So, great question. So, Franny the Traveler is a full-time educator. So, I'm a high school assistant principal of math and science in a high school in Brooklyn, New York. But I'm a part-time travel blogger. So, the blogging part started just because like so many people would constantly ask me questions of like, oh, what should you see here? What should you do here? And so it came to a point where I was like, okay, I might as well just write this down somewhere so I can refer you to this resource. So in doing that, it has motivated me to take the blog to like higher directions. And so basically between blogging and then also traveling, trying to see all 50 states, trying to see as many countries as possible. And also doing it while promoting Black-owned businesses and Black travel, that has been very important to me.
I love it. I'm sorry, go ahead. I mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, well, you can see we're both excited to talk to you. I was reading some of your articles, very interesting. And I just want to know, how was that experience, being highlighted in the Essence article, the one about, 48 times, Black women, or just highlighting their mom for teaching them how to travel. How was that whole experience of being selected? Did Essence select you, or did you submit and they just chose you? Like, how did that come about?
So I submitted the person who put together that article, Danielle, she posted on No Madness Tribe, which is one of those Black travel groups. And so I submitted a post and then my post got selected. So that meant a lot to me because I think my mom is the one who I feel like inspired that level of curiosity for me. So we never really got a chance to travel while I was young because we just couldn't afford it. And so more of my travel began when I started teaching, which has been like 10 years now. And so with that, I feel like I've been paying it forward. So I usually take her on a trip with me at least like once a year. And so for that moment to not only be captured, but then also be recognized by others, definitely had like, it was definitely a big moment for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I've been trying to get my father to, he's gonna watch this too, but I've been trying to get him to travel with me. He'd be like, boy, he's like, for what? He's one of those, and I got a lot of friends that are like this too, but they always, why? I'd be like, hey man, let's go to Portugal. Man, what's over there? Why?
It's like, funny you said that. A friend of mine said that of like Finland, and she was like, what's in Finland? I'm like, it's another country. Like
it sells itself. So I always get frustrated with people. I mean, I know everybody has their own thing. Everybody's not a traveler. I got it. But I just be like, it always fascinates me. Like people just say, I'm good right here. I can just hang out in the city. I'd be like, really? You're like, nothing fascinates you in like another city? Like, even if you're not, like say like Ryan. Ryan is not a big international guy, but domestically he travels, all the time. So, I commend him for that, so just to see other places, experience other cultures. And like the culture can be different. Like you said, like New York to like where I'm in Virginia is night and day.
That is like two very different cultures.
Yeah. So it's like, man, it's like when I go to New York, I'll be like, all right, let me, let me tighten up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Let me make sure. Cause they're gonna be like,
that's why I've also gone so hard for like USA travel specifically. I mean, like I travel internationally too, but I feel like USA travel, I feel like it's like an easier means for people to travel. It's like you almost have no excuse. Like you could drive in your car, you could hop on Amtrak, you can hop on a bus. Like if the plane and the fear of flying is what's preventing you, there are so many other ways you can travel and still get a different culture without even going too far. Like you could go 2-3 hours out, especially on the East Coast, and be in a completely different state.
Yeah, you're exactly. That's why I love living in Virginia per se, because it's kind of like in the middle or whatever. So, I could be in New York in 4 or 5 hours. If I'm driving. I mean, even like if I want to shoot up to Canada, so 8 hours to Toronto. From Virginia. So, or at least the part of Virginia I'm from. So like I said, I think about all the stuff like that, and I have been slacking on my stateside travel that I need to get better, because people be like, and this is when I get these strange like what? They be like, hey, they'll talk about some random place in the world, be like, oh, I seen Mount Fuji. They be like, oh man, you saw Mount Fuji? I'm like, yeah. They be like, man, you ever been to Tennessee? Nah, man, I ain't never been there. They be like, what? They be like, oh yeah, man, I don't even know what you're talking about. You're like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to get a little bit better, like say on my stateside travel, but.
No, I'm guilty of that. Like it took me so long to get to like Los Angeles or Miami. It's like I went to India or Norway, but I had not stepped foot in Miami for the longest.
I still haven't been to Miami. I'm like, and I think, because I do have a question, but I think it's one of those things for me in the last, say, 5 years that literally, I think it's so expensive to travel in the States.
Yeah.
Like, my family, like I'm originally born and raised in St. Louis. So
I love St. Louis, by the way.
Oh, thank you. St. Louis is a wonderful city. So when I told travel to St. Louis, I could be like, all right, I want to see St. Louis, 2 months from now. All right, cool. $330 for a round trip ticket. I'd be like,
yeah.
It just confuses me. I'd be like, why is it so expensive? I mean, the flight is like 2 hours. It's like maybe 2 hours. And I remember when I used to live in Europe, I could fly anywhere less than $150 round trip. Like I flew from Germany to London, and a round trip ticket was 27 euros.
Wow.
And I'm like, and then it's like, and I think it kind of skewed my perspective, because now when I travel now, I look at tickets now, I be like, I'm not paying that. I used to pay this. So it kind of messed me up a little bit on that side.
You got spoiled a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in Europe, you don't really need to fly these, luxury airliners, like stateside, I'm more of a Delta, United American, I never flown Spirit,
I haven't either, but I might have to look into it.
Yeah, like, I've never flown like some of the, I would say low budget, I'm sorry, but the budget airliners like, Frontier and all that stuff like that. JetBlue, I've never flown those, but I have heard, positive and negative reviews for both, sides of the coin. So, but, so my actual question is, it's like a two-parter. Where's your favorite destination internationally and domestically?
Ooh, those are good questions. I'm going to start internationally first. So I think my favorite, okay, I have two. I know I'm cheating here, but they're like for very different reasons.
I understand completely.
So I think my favorite is Haiti, in terms of, I think it's just super underrated. I'm also being biased because I'm like half Haitian American, like my mom's side is from Haiti. Okay. But the reason why I'm also saying it, because I think Haiti has gone very underappreciated, especially for Black history. Like there would be no Black history if it wasn't for Haiti. And I think, unfortunately, when you look in the media, all it shows is like the impoverished parts. However, Haiti has some of the most like untouched, pristine beaches. Like I've never felt sand so white and soft, and the water just being so clear and blue, and you could just keep walking and walking, and the water is still not even like hip length. Like you could just really go really deep. So I think it has like a mix of really good food. The art is like on a whole nother level. So I think people just haven't given Haiti a chance. The other one I want to highlight though, just in case, because I know like people often get concerned about, well, like, is Haiti dangerous and all of that stuff. I think it's just like, there's danger anywhere you go. But if you're not ready to take that leap, I think one of the safest places to go is Oslo, Norway.
Okay.
And so I say Norway because I've never been a place where the transportation was so efficient. Like even just like the automatic of like opening of the doors, like it's like they are exactly on time with the train system. So if you are not there at that time, you would have missed it. But I think I also appreciated Norway because I felt like I could walk around and felt like a local and no one like stared at me strangely. Like people would talk to me in Norwegian and just assumed that I had lived there before I get the puzzled look of like, oh no, she don't understand what I'm saying.
That's good stuff, man. Like I said, I've never been to neither one of those places. I was going to go. I went to the Dominican Republic a few years ago, and I planned on going to Haiti. And then I let some people talk me out of it. It was like, oh man, it's super dangerous. Don't go. And I go anywhere. I mean, to be honest with you, but I just kind of let them. And I had my cousin with me, and he's never been out the country. That was his first time, and he was super like, you know, hey man, I ain't going over there.
No, I mean, and I can understand. I think if it's like your first time trip, it may not be like the best trip for the first time. Because I think with Haiti, I would say it just requires more planning than a lot of other parts of the Caribbean. I feel like with DR, you could just like show up and just head to the resort and like the taxis and everything packed. I think with Haiti, you have to do more pre-planning of like what your transportation is going to be to get around. But I think once you have that figured out, and there's resorts there too, I think it just has so much to offer. But it may not want to be like your first trip internationally.
Well, you know, I have a follow-up question. You know, since you explained whole note, first of all, me and Preston talked about this before. Yeah, we definitely, I don't know. Well, I'll speak for myself. I definitely have a thing about, you know, trying not to feel out of place when I travel, you know, and so it felt good that you said you went to Norway and people thought you were just like a natural citizen, you know, speaking to you in their just, you know, native language, whatnot. But, you know, for somebody who is, you know, not that experienced traveling internationally, for the example of your Norway trip, how difficult is it to really get around on public transportation if you don't really know the language like that? Do you find that challenging, or, and if you do, how would you work around that?
I think with Norway specifically, why I also suggested, because everything is translated both in English and the Norwegian language. So everyone there also speaks English fluently. Like there's very few people you're going to find who don't speak English. So I think that also made it a lot easier and more comfortable. I think also that city is like, it felt like a smaller version of New York, but much simpler transportation. So it just felt really comfortable. I felt like I was like at home in New York, just like hopping onto the subway, getting off to the next neighborhood, checking out a museum. Like it really, yeah, I just really felt comfortable. And I think it was just very easy to figure things out. Like Google Maps was my friend.
Oh yeah, Google Maps helps out. Yeah, it does. I think that's pretty awesome. Like I said, like I know for me, I lived in several different states, so you know I kind of fit in. Like I lived in the Midwest, I lived in the South, I lived in the North, you know, East Coast. Never did the West Coast thing, but you know, so I'm very comfortable pretty much anywhere. And also when it comes to stuff like trains and stuff like that, like I know how to ride the subway. I understand. Especially like anybody that's in the like New York area, DMV area, that's what we live off of, the metro or the subway. So I understand how to take the blue line to the red line to get to the green line to get over, you know, all the different places. So I know how to, you know, read that part or whatever. So I never really had issues like myself when I'm in you know, other countries doing that. I'm not a big subway guy when I go overseas, or unless like I used to take the train in Germany a lot, and then I used to when I went to London, I used their tube system or whatever. But and it was pretty clean and efficient. You know what I'm saying? So I do appreciate that when you go overseas. Like if they say they pulling out at 12:06, hey, you might want to be there like at least 12:04.
You might want to be there a few minutes early.
Yeah, like you definitely
I
want
found
to be
myself running for the trolley. Like,
oh, they have no sympathy. They be like, they'll look at you and be like,
bye.
all right, go close that. You'd be like, man. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So my next question is, what type of traveler are you? Like, you a budget type of traveler, or you like, I like to, dabble in the luxury side of things. What type of traveler are you?
Yeah. Oh, also, I think to your last question in terms of domestic location, I would for me, it's Chicago. Like I could see myself living in Chicago. That would be the place. Like if someone was like, oh, you got to move out of New York, like Chicago would be the place I would go. I think I just love the slowness of like the Midwest, and it's just more space. But like, I feel like Chicago still has everything that New York has to offer in terms of like literally an endless amount of things to do.
Yeah, Chicago's a beautiful city.
And that cold, it won't be too far from me with the cold since you're from New York, I suppose.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, that's crazy. But yeah, so what type of traveler you are?
So I would say, I feel like I'm definitely not a luxury traveler, but I'm not the cheap budget traveler either. I feel like I'm like the moderate, like budget luxe traveler. Like I want like a nice day. Like I usually tend to stay in hotel. Like I've never done like a hostel before, and I've done very few like Airbnbs. I like the comfort of like someone coming in for room service and my bed is like, cleaned up the next day. For sure. But I feel like I always try to find ways to save. So for example, with buying plane tickets, I'm usually not set on like a particular location, because part of it is it's just cheaper sometimes to look at, okay, if I'm able to travel during these dates, let's look at what locations is cheapest, which is why I think I end up traveling to like random locations. Like my ticket for Oslo was like somewhere between 300 and 330 round trip, like from New York. So it's basically like what is cheapest that can fit into that time. I think I'm always looking for like free walking tours when I get to a place, because that'll help me figure out my surroundings, but it's also the cheapest as well. So I try to find ways to save, or sometimes I'll use like a third party website like Hotwire to book the hotel. So I'm always trying to find ways to travel, but I'm not so cheap to the point that I'm going to skimp on.
You bring a good point. You bring up a good point though. Like when you said, your trip from New York to Oslo was like 330 round trip, and so I could see why someone would prefer international more than traveling domestically. Like if I have $300 and I have a choice between Miami, which is domestic, or have a new experience outside of the country, hell yeah, I'm probably go to Oslo.
And Miami will cost you that much sometimes, like from New York, depending on the time. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I could totally get that. Totally get. I think before I got into traveling as much, like Preston said, I've done the whole domestic thing. Now I'm trying to expand my horizons. I could definitely see myself, having an international trip more priority than my domestic stuff around. So I like that. But my other question was, speaking of domestic travel, I did recently go to New York, had a whole episode about it. Some of the good, bad, and awkward. I won't say ugly, but I wish I read some of your posts before I traveled, because they're very informative as far as itinerary if you ever visit the Bronx, or outdoor things to do in Brooklyn and things of that nature. So if I go, like I said, I went for like 3 days, and so, but there was so much I'm trying to squeeze in. If next time I go back to New York, right? If there was one thing that I should do the next time I go to New York, that's just like, Ryan, you must do this next time you go to New York, what would that suggestion be from you?
That is a good question. For me, I am again, this is maybe the bias in me, but I would say explore the Little Caribbean area. Okay. I think this is like a term that has been coined recently, but it's basically the area I grew up, which is around like Flatbush Avenue, Nostrand Avenue. This area, you will basically find restaurants, I feel like, from so many different islands of the Caribbean, like Haitian restaurants, Jamaican restaurants, Barbados, and just like the people you're surrounded by, the music, the clothes, like it will make you feel like you stepped foot in the Caribbean. I remember even walking around with my mom, there's a like subsection that's Little Haiti, and she was born in Haiti, and she was like, wow, it literally feels like I got transported back to Haiti. Like everyone is speaking Haitian Creole. They're like going buying their like baguettes and hot chocolate in the bakery. So I feel like that's like a more authentic like experience that you would have, like hop on the dollar van instead of like the MTA subway if you're looking for like a true authentic experience in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to do that because I for sure I didn't hit any Caribbean spots. I mainly spent my time in like Soho, Times Square, but there was so much more I wanted to do there. I did go.
And don't get me wrong, I think all those things you have to do too, like especially in New York. Yeah. It's one of those things, like there's certain touristy things, is like if you haven't done it, it's like, did you really go to New York? Like if you didn't go to Times Square, you know, if you have time to walk the Brooklyn Bridge, I feel like that's like a beautiful experience as well. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking for outside of the like touristy experiences, I think Brooklyn is like where it's at.
I got to go there next. I want to do that next. And a small side note, I don't even think I brought it up, but I did go to, which is kind of unfortunate or somewhat sad. I did go to some, my wife, like she's allergic to gluten, so we try to get gluten-free options when we eat and stuff like that. And so she found this place, I forget the name of it, but it was like, she wanted some cupcakes from this one place. And like, when I like put it on the GPS, it wasn't too far from like Marcy. I was like, okay, cool. I get this, go through Marcy, see what it's out. And unfortunately, it was like all gentrified, like some of it at least. And so it was just like, damn, it's not.
And I'm not gonna lie, I think the little Caribbean, like the Flatbush area, which is where I basically grew up, I think the parts, it's almost like, basically, I feel like with Brooklyn, like the closer you're getting to Manhattan, the more gentrified it's getting. Also, like the closer you are to the subway lines is getting more gentrified. So even with this little Caribbean area, it's like the area that's closest to the subway or closer to Park Slope, which is where you'll find a lot of white people and like interracial couples, I would say has gotten more gentrified. But if you just go like a little deeper, it's like they haven't touched that yet.
This is untouched. People in that natural habitat.
Exactly.
That's funny. So that brings, so one of my questions I always ask people is that, because I always just like to hear people's stories. You have any funny travel stories or horrible, travel stories? Anything that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, like a trip from hell or something, anything.
Oh man, give me a minute to think of this, because I've definitely had some travel moments for sure. So I would say in Cuba, and this was a trip that my fiance and I took. And so it's interesting because I think in terms of personality, he's more the like chill, laid back, just don't bother me. Whatever price you tell me, it is what it is. I'm like the hustler. Like I'm always trying to get the biggest bang for my buck. And I think it went a little sour when we were in Cuba. So we were riding one of these like bicycle taxis to a location. And first of all, the guy got lost. Like we told him a particular location and we were nowhere near that. And so when he stopped and paused, it's like, no, you need to actually drive us to the location. And then he had the nerve basically to try to then overcharge us and charge us basically for that trip and the mistake he made.
Oh, no. Yeah.
The thing is, in Cuba, like, I don't speak really fluent Spanish, but fortunately my fiance does, because he's Dominican American. So having to hustle a price when you can't speak directly to the person because you don't speak the language, and then seeing my fiance getting visually upset, there was a point where I thought like the police was going to get called on.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, we had to just like give the money, and then we like ran into this like market, and then there was like other people that was starting to chase us that was like in support of this guy, because I don't know what he told these
Wow.
That's
scary.
Yeah, that's scary. Yeah. The driver was like, yo, go get them real quick.
Exactly. And especially Cuba, like you don't really have internet. Like there's just like so many things that you don't have to even communicate. So
oh man,
that's scary. I ain't gonna lie to you. That is scary. I'm glad it worked out for you guys. Sound like y'all did some Mission Impossible, just disappearing.
And we were like dodging down aisles trying to lose these people. And then hopefully no one would recognize us.
Oh man.
Nobody recognized.
Yeah, you had to put on like the disguise with the glasses with the nose and the mustache and all that. Just
oh man, that's wild. Okay, I'm glad you shared that story. I haven't been to Cuba yet, and I'm mad too because I had a chance and then I just kept putting it off. So that's one thing I do tell people: do not put things off. Just do it.
Yes.
With whatever everything that's going on right now. Just do it.
I would say this time has made me realize of like, dang, there's like certain trips that I like was thinking of doing. And I'm like, dang, I should have taken advantage.
Oh my gosh. Like I had so much stuff planned. How was it? Yeah, for last year. So last year I had Chile, I had Argentina planned, I had Ecuador planned. I had like a London trip planned. I had at least 5 trips planned and poof, they just went away. But the only thing I did last year was I went to Brazil for Carnival. That's the only thing
Oh, that's always been a dream of mine.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Just to go to Carnival in general, but like Brazil and Trinidad Carnival are like my top 2 that I want to make.
Yeah, I definitely want to see the Caribbean because I got Caribbean friends and they were just like, oh, it's nothing like Brazil because, like I guess Rio is more of the pageantry. It's like,
Yes.
all the samba boats and all that stuff like that, but
like it looks like a parade of what I've seen. Like
that's exactly what it is. You go to the Samba Dome and you just sit there and you just see like the line of the different schools and they're just showing their floats, their costumes and stuff like that. But I heard the Caribbean side of thing like Trinidad and like Barbados, all these places, it's nothing like that. I heard it's more
it's like a massive party.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know the correct term because I've seen videos of this
partying in the streets.
And it's like, they let y'all do that down there? It's like, I'd be like, man, I don't know. I don't know if I can, I don't know if my wife will let me
rock down there.
Right.
Wow. It's much, I would tell you this. Rio is a lot more tamer from the videos, that I've seen from the Caribbean side of things. So but like I told Ryan, I know Ryan wants to go. So yeah. I was telling him like, make sure you go, to the right one or whatever. But I think he's gonna go with his wife because I think she went, right? Ryan?
Yeah. She went once upon a time. Her and her best friend went like years ago, like before we even met. Like
oh, okay.
Yeah. So they had a ball, and so I not only don't want to go, Franny, I want to actually be in the parade. Like I think whatever you have to pay.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So hey. Bird chest and Speedos, I'm out there. I'm be out here.
That's my thought for the Caribbean one. Like I would love to play Moss, like buy the costume, be like in it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I would do too. Because I'm more of a when I travel somewhere, if they have an outfit or I don't care what it is, I'm buying it. Like, when I lived in Germany, I had to get the little hosen. I mean, I'm out there, having fun. I'm on tables. I'm getting it. Like, and people looking at me like all my friends back in the day, man, you actually wore that? Yes. I'm like, anytime I went to like Oktoberfest or any type of fest, hey.
Full version, right?
Hey, this is what, and everybody actually appreciated it.
Right.
Because one, I wasn't trying to be ignorant with it. I didn't alter it. I didn't say, well, I'm gonna put my American spin on it. Like, no, I had the traditional from head to toe, like, you know, and I actually respect the culture. You know, I understand what it represents, you know, stuff like that. And one of my plans is to go to Scotland because I want to get a kilt, you know, but, you know, I want to get an authentic kilt and I wear it whenever it's supposed to be worn and, you know, and just respect the culture. I'm very respectful when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm a Brian. Did you have another question?
Well, yeah, actually, you know, speaking of I guess this is just a switch topic. I have no good segue, but I noticed, like, as you mentioned earlier, you already been to 35 out of the 50 states. Well, what's you know, what's one of the states that you haven't been to that's like, this is my must go to states that I haven't been to yet? Do you have one or two?
No, I do. And it's funny because this actually came up in convos I've had with people on Instagram. Every time they mention this place, I'm like, damn it, I haven't been here yet. Because I was supposed to go last year in May, but then, you know, that got canceled. It's Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yo, yes. Albuquerque is, yes.
I heard about that. It's good.
That's on my hit list.
Yeah, like I want to go there because I know like New Mexico culture is like its own culture. It's very different than Mexican culture. There's also a lot of like indigenous influences, but I've also been researching. They also have like some Black owned spots. They even have an African American history museum. So I just want to like, I feel like Albuquerque, from what I can see, it will feel like you're in another country, but you're still like in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't been in neither. I want to go. I mean, I didn't think about it, but the way you just described it makes me want to just seek that out now. I really would want to, you know, mark that off because I've only been to like 22, 23 states.
I was going to ask you, how many have each of you been to?
Yeah, I've been to, I think the last count was like 23 or 24, something like that.
Which is still really high because I know like what I've read is like on average people have only been to like 8 to 12 states in their lifetime. Like it's interesting because it's like a lot of people in the United States, it's either because they're always traveling internationally or they really get stuck in their own bubble because there's also so many people who don't have a US passport either. So I'm like, if you don't have a US passport and you're not traveling stateside, what are we doing?
Like, what are you doing? Yeah, that's yeah, like I said, I was just fortunate. A lot of my states came from because I was in the military. So you know, just being stationed in different areas in America. So, you know, if there's a state that bordered my, you know, my state I was in, I'll just go over there. You know, did stuff like that and you know, have fun, you know. So, and even before the military, my father was in the military, so he bounced around a little bit. So I got to live in New Jersey for like a year or two. So that's how I got to go to New York so often. And then I had family that lived in Long Island. So I used to go to Long Island, I guess, you know, every once in a while and visit them. And then I thought like New York is pretty cool. I like New York. And then my wife's twin, she lives in Patterson, New Jersey. Yeah, so she lives out there. So we go out there once a year. Then I went to Harlem for the first.
That's the other spot. If you're not going to Brooklyn, go to Harlem.
Yeah, Harlem is dope. I like Harlem. I was like, man, I gotta come back. So yeah, we went to a couple of different soul food restaurants.
That's also gentrifying too. So you gotta like still look for the Black.
Look around.
And I was like, this don't look like the Harlem I was reading about.
I'm like, you got a Whole Foods being built because I went to undergrad at Columbia. So you know, there's also the controversy because you know we're bordering Harlem. We probably took some of Harlem. But it's like, I always used to go to Harlem in undergrad because I felt like it was my escape from the gentrification of like, oh, I could get my soul food from Amy Roots or Sylvia's. Oh, I could still go shopping in Rainbow.
Yeah. Aaron Roots, that's a good soul food spot. Yes. Yeah, I ate there. That was the last time I ate in Harlem, but it was good. It took a while to get inside though. It took a while.
Oh, that means the food was fire.
That's exactly. That's a good sign when it's.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was expensive, but it was good. So one of my questions is, because I always like to ask this question, is what are some of your travel do's and don'ts?
That's a good. I think travel do. So back to what I was saying, I think you need to be flexible. So I would always say follow the price, not the location. And so with that, I think if you have specifically, you either have to be flexible with the dates you're willing to travel if you're set on a location. So for example, if you're trying to go to Brazil, realize Brazil during carnival time is going to be more expensive. And are you willing to pay that price? Or if you're not caring for the carnival experience and you just want to go to Brazil, it's like, okay, can I go another time that's off peak? Or if for me, since I'm an educator, I'm usually given specific times off, right? Like I have this week, I don't have the flexibility. So for me, I'm more flexible with the location of what is cheapest during that time period. I think in terms of, when I think of like safety, I would highly recommend downloading an offline maps of like where you're going. So either Google Maps has that option, or there's an app that's called maps.me. And I say that because sometimes you're going to end up places where the internet is spotty or you just don't have any service at all. So you want to make sure that you can still get around. I would also have a copy of like your hotel or your itinerary, like take a picture of it, but also have a printed version because cell phones can die too. And then you may be out of luck if you don't even know where you're supposed to get back to. I always grab the business card from the hotel when I get there and just have it in my pocket just in case. So that's a highly recommend. For me, I think the last thing is when you're traveling, try to like look for the local authentic experience. Like I always try to find like if there's a event or a festival going on. So for example, when I was in Copenhagen, I came across a random open mic. Like I was just looking on Facebook for events that's happening in the area. I think also I'm a big push of like find Black owned anywhere you go. Take the time to do that research. I think my blog, which is frannythetraveler.com, like I'm always trying to highlight Black owned spots, even in like the most obscure places. Like you're not thinking Black in Norway. There's a whole lot more Black people than I realized in Norway. And I even came across a random, he's half Norwegian, half Jamaican, and he was cooking up Jamaican food at the same time. So I think it's like out there. I think in terms of travel don'ts, I think in the age of social media, I'm all about like, yes, you want to share your travels, but don't share it in real time. Meaning like if you're at a specific restaurant, don't share it exactly at the time because you just don't want to attract stalkers and like unnecessary, like you just don't know who, like most people I think are good, but there's also the chance that someone is not good. And I think the same thing you would follow in your own city and state in terms of safety. Like, don't forget all those rules when you go abroad just because you're on a trip.
Yeah, that's a good point. And matter of fact, who was it? I think it was either my uncle or my cousin, man. But he went on vacation. What was it? I want to say he went to like either Jamaica or Barbados, but he went to like somewhere warm and islandy and things like that. And he did exactly that. Like, you know, my uncle old school, so he was, you know, Facebooking it, but it was real time. And like next thing you know, somebody broke into his spot, you know, while he was out of town. He came back home because
they're like, oh, okay, clearly this person is not at their hotel, they're not at their Airbnb.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I mean, they broke into his home. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, well, because
that's another valid point too. I think it's like pick and choose people that you trust in terms of like knowing your whereabouts. Like I always tell like a few friends and my mom, just in terms of safety and of course when you're abroad, like you want people to know. But I think, like you said, to your point, I think people unfortunately take advantage of situations. Like if you're posting on Facebook and Instagram, you got like 1,000 followers. That's just like asking for it.
Yeah.
You guys want to come to the house while I'm not here?
Exactly.
That is true. Like I said, you got to be conscious of what you post, when you post. And like I said, and I learned a lot of that from just being in the military because we always got to get safety classes and I start, losing touch, like stuff that I think is common sense. It really ain't that common, And I'd be like, oh, you didn't think about that, huh? I'd be like, so, you know, it always, you know, I won't say it cracks me up, but it's like, wow. It's one of those things that was like, I'm just blessed and fortunate that, like I said, I was in the military and I had a military father, like, and my mother, she was in the military. So they instilled a lot of safety because that's what military do. Safety first, safety, safety, safety. You know, so I'm always mindful of that and what comes with that. And then like some of your, you know what I'm saying, like some of your dues and stuff, I do exactly like when it comes to cell phones. Because obviously we're either on the phone or we're looking at something or we're trying to upload something or your battery runs out quick.
Yes.
So I know what I did was I bought 2 external battery packs.
Yes.
So
portables are clutch.
Yeah. So I have 2 of them. So I was like, I don't care what's going on. They're fully charged. I'm ready to go. You know, I'm ready for anything. You know what I'm saying? So, and then like you said, downloading things offline is key because I usually download, like you said, my hotel information because some people just leave it on their email. But if you don't have connection,
exactly,
you'll be able to get to it. So definitely take your screenshots of that thing. That's key. I totally agree with that. And also, I download Google Translate offline.
Yes, I was thinking that too, because if you're in another country, like that may be your only means of communicating with somebody.
Man, it's hard times out there. I'm telling you, I've been in some areas, I'd be like, all right, man.
Or the menu is in a completely different language and the person doesn't speak English. It's like Google Translate has the feature where you could like hover your phone around something and it'll try to translate it. It's not perfect, but you're like, oh, okay, that's chicken.
That's some type of meat. Like, and that's very important because I did that in Brazil. Like, because I was like, because I don't eat like lamb and stuff like that. So I was just sitting there like asking the waiter. I was like, hey man, what kind of meat is this? He was like, I was like, all right, man. So I'm bringing out my thing, and I'm like, all right. That was my first time using it. It worked pretty well too. You know, I didn't think it was going to work that well, but it'll translate most of the words. You know, so yeah, that's very helpful.
Yeah, I don't have a question. It's more of a just a comment or a compliment, as you will. Like when I was, you know, you mentioned earlier, like, you know, when you do travel, you try to seek out the Black-owned spots, and you know, you may, you know, feature them in your blog and so forth. Like, you know, like I really appreciate, you know, when just a traveler who can just have that, you know, that insight, to try to provide that insight for other travelers, you know, of travelers of color. One of the articles that I remember reading, just, I guess for lack of a better word, in preparation to this interview, I liked how, I think under your Black-owned section, your Vermont trip, I loved how you got each section like, hey, you know, if these are some Black spots you can support, this and the third, and even other topics that you had on there. So like, you know, what is it like to be Black in Vermont and things of that nature? I just, you know, like what, I guess, even though sounds a compliment, like what, you know, inspired you to try to highlight those type of, you know, spots when you travel?
No, that's real. I think for me, I didn't start the blog that way. Like the blog was originally like just sharing like what I've seen and done, but then I realized over time that it was lacking in the travel space. Like I think when I'm in not one necessarily to Google what is the Black experience in X location, because I just want to experience it for myself. But what I realized is a lot of people would reach out, or what would happen is they would get discouraged to go somewhere like Vermont or Denmark or Norway because they're like, oh, it is white. Like, why am I going here? So I think partly it's like I wanted to show like we as Black people belong in any and all spaces. Like we literally created this world. And so we need to literally sprinkle our melanin all over this world. And so if it helps to make people more comfortable for them to get that experience in terms of like, oh, okay, I've seen someone do it, then I want to be that resource. I think it's also the educator in me. I always am trying to educate others. And so seeing that's like a topic that's not talked about, not that I'm trying to I would hope it would encourage, because I know sometimes when people talk about experiences, it can discourage too. So that's why I want to show the good and also, like you called it, the awkward experiences. And then also just show like you can find spaces that you can feel comfortable no matter where you go in the world, hence the Black owned part.
Well, as I mentioned, I tip my hat off to you for that. I think that's very dope. And like, just hindsight, I just wish I came across, your blog or just that idea, before a certain place I went to. Like I was telling Preston on an episode, I went to Maine and I felt out of place. I mean, I didn't know about any, Black owned spots that I could support. I mean, I didn't get mistreated out there, but
But there's a difference between, not getting mistreated versus like feeling comfortable and in place.
That's true.
And so I think it's one of those things. I think it's important sometimes to step outside of our comfort zones too, but I think it's also important to also find places where you can retreat to that comfort zone as well.
Yeah. That's real talk. So once again, I appreciate it. I got a bookmarked on my Google Chrome. So I'm gonna just every now and then I'm gonna see what Franny up to this week. So thank you.
I'm hoping to go back to Maine in the summer, so I'll let you know in terms of the Black owned part.
yeah, because I was like, all I see is just this old mama pops white places. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's dope. Like I said, it's almost like like I'm glad that you actually put it out, that information, because a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, I've been a lot of places, I'll be like, I don't think about seeking Black areas or Black owned, restaurants or anything like that.
So, I think it's also just a good way to support. So it goes beyond the comfort level. I think I'm always like, we got to support our people too. And so, especially in these areas where they may be one of a few or one of the only, like as much as like I can also support a fellow Black person, especially in areas where they also are probably one of the few, like I'm all for that.
Yeah, I am too. Like I said, I really, I said like my wife and I, we definitely try to support Black owned businesses. We like try to, if we come across it traveling, we definitely do it. But I need to take more of a just a better approach at it. Like actually Google, like, hey, what's some Black restaurants, and not just like you said, go to Black area like Houston, Atlanta. Okay, that's obvious.
Yeah, I mean, like there's plenty of us.
Yeah, it's obvious. Like, damn, I don't have enough money for all you guys.
Right.
Places like Vermont, New Hampshire, and places like that, South Dakota,
like Montana. There's literally one Black owned there apparently.
Yeah, they're isolated. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I definitely love that idea, and I actually want to support that. So thank you for sharing that. So like my last question is, like, have you been to any of the wonders of the world? Like
I have been to a few. I've been to the Taj Mahal in India. I've been to the Great Wall of China. And the Colosseum in Rome. So in terms of the like more recent, but then I've also been to the pyramids of Giza, which is like the ancient wonders.
Okay.
And which
but
one?
I do want to see all of them.
Yeah, I'm working my way through that list myself. So do you ever just find like I guess I get excited, and then when I actually see something, I'll be like, oh, that's it, huh? And I get sometimes
I have definitely had that.
You go somewhere, you be like, oh man, I'm gonna go see. Like when I went to see the Eiffel Tower, in my mind, it was going to be this, I don't know, this grand, object or whatever. But I got there, I was like, oh.
I felt like that for Paris in general, but I'm gonna just say, like, I was there on a layover, so maybe I need to give it more of a chance. But basically, because of like some trip schedules, we ended up having to go through France instead, and we decided to extend our time. So I was like, okay, we're gonna Uber it into the city, we're gonna see the Eiffel Tower, do a brief walking tour. And then for some reason, I didn't get the like wow feeling of like OMG. And then France, Paris, like it rubbed me the wrong way too. So I'm like, okay, I need to like go back maybe and do more in depth before I like give a full opinion. But the like first experience of it, I was just not enthused.
Yeah, that's how I was. I tell people all the time. I took my wife to Paris for a birthday weekend or whatever, and we was out there, and I was just like,
Thailand is also the other place, and I feel bad saying this because I feel like so many people really love
That's
Thailand.
On my bucket list. Like, I gotta go see Thailand.
But Bangkok, I felt like was overwhelming for me. And this is from like a New Yorker. I felt like it was New York on steroids. So New York times 100 in terms of like traffic. And then the temples are cool, but I guess when you start seeing so many temples, it becomes like, okay. or like the islands, like it's pretty with the rocks and stuff, but I'm like, I could get this in the Caribbean without traveling as far.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just one of those things that just, you know, when I go places, you know, especially, I remember my first time seeing the White House years ago. In my mind, I'm thinking this is about to be the biggest building I've ever seen in my life. You get there and be like, oh, there's only like 8,000 square feet. What is that? You know what I'm saying? So it's, you know.
This is why I prefer going to the random underrated places, because I think I don't have a perception built about those places. So when I go there, I'm just in awe because I have like no clue about what I'm supposed to find.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. Like I said, the one place that I would say that I always represented is Egypt. Like Egypt exceeded like anything I could have ever found. I mean, like,
the pyramids were larger than I thought.
Actually. Oh my gosh. Like, did you go inside the pyramid?
Yeah, so this is Egypt. It also has a special place because it's where I got engaged. Like,
okay. Yeah, I seen that picture. He was like,
show it all.
I was like, okay. Egypt.
Yeah, I think it's just like when you look in the pyramid, when you see all the hieroglyphics on the wall, when you actually see like dark skinned painted on the hieroglyphics, you're like, oh yes, like this is where we came from.
Yeah, I recommend Egypt to everyone. I mean, the trip is, it's a long flight from the States.
It's well worth it. I think everyone has to go at least once.
Yeah, I gotta go.
My wife and I, we went for our anniversary 2 years ago, and we went for like 2 weeks, and we went to like all these, you know, cities and stuff like that. But it was beautiful. We loved it. So, yeah. So like, you know, we like to segue into our rapid fire questions, and whatever, you know what I'm saying, your first thought, you know, that's to just say it. First thought. Okay, you ready? Okay. So the first question. Luxury or budget?
Budget.
Train or plane?
Ooh, train.
Train. Oh, we don't get a lot of trains. Okay, train. Okay.
I love flying, but I like to be able to see outside.
So you want the scenic route? I feel you.
Exactly.
Okay. Hostel or hotel?
Oh, hotel.
City life or beach?
That's hard. I'm gonna go with city.
City, okay. All right. Desert or tropical?
Tropical.
Tropical. Cold destination or hot destination?
Hot.
Hot. Off the beaten path or organized excursion?
Off the beaten path.
Off the beaten path.
Okay.
Photo or video?
Photo.
Photo, okay.
Solo. I like to put photos up.
Okay, that's a good point.
Because I realized like we always take photos for like the gram, for blogs and stuff. But recently I realized like we don't print things anymore.
Not anymore.
So I'm trying to get more into like actually having concrete photos. So like in our living room, I actually like printed photos.
Okay.
I like that. Like I said, my wife and I, we're starting to get into that because, you know, back in the day, you go anybody's house, you're gonna have 17 different photo albums.
Exactly. That I missed that, where it's like, because I feel like you walk into an older generation's house and you just see the history.
Yeah, you go back in time.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Like, man, it's Polaroid. You be like, hey, you feel like if you touch it, it's gonna go into dust. You be like, but okay. So the next question is solo or group?
Solo.
Solo. Okay. And the last one is fast food or dining in?
Oh, dining in.
Oh, dining in. Okay.
Yeah.
Although I will say I'm not like anti like fast food, but like I like to try McDonald's, for example, in different countries because it's so different.
Yeah. I love McDonald's in different countries. You'd be like, damn, this don't taste like America.
Right. Or I'm like, a burger is on a pita bread in Morocco.
Yeah,
I like that.
He did very well on that. Yeah, because like I said, I love to ask these questions just to see how different people, because we had a couple of like couples come on and like they be like want to say this and I want to say that. I'd be like, oh, you guys not
you're not in tune
here.
Yeah, you're not aligned, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, so also like, so one of the last things is, before we wrap this up, we want to make sure that you plug anything that you have, like all your social media platforms.
Yeah. Where can people find you? Where can they find your blog? How can they find and get more information from good old Franny the Traveler?
No, yes, I greatly appreciate it. So you can go to my blog, which is frannythetraveler.com. On Instagram, if you type in Franny the Traveler, I will come up as well. Facebook, also Franny the Traveler. So pretty consistent.
That's good. And the last thing is, do you have anything coming up that you wish the people to know that we look forward to?
So I'm actually doing a IG live on Wednesday with Red Lips and Passports. We're going to talk about microcation. So like, what is a microcation? How do you go on a microcation? Basically, how do you maximize your time traveling, especially if you have a full-time job? So that will be this Wednesday at 8 p.m. And then I'm also just trying to work on a couple of projects. So in a couple of months, stay tuned for what those projects are going to be. I'm going to keep it under wraps for now. But
okay, well, I'm pulling up on that on the live Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that Wednesday too. Yeah, I definitely, because I was telling, I'm actually glad you said that, because I was telling Ryan, I was like, I'm very limited on where I can go because my job tells me I can't leave the state. So now I'm like, okay, now I need to, see what's in Virginia. Like, I need to be like, okay, what's
I'm not gonna lie, I feel like that. I mean, one, I think because of during these times, I also just wasn't comfortable like traveling yet. So I think that's why I have so many blog posts on like New York now, because it really forced me in some ways of how can I travel without literally having to like get on a plane or go anywhere else. And I think New York City and New York State has so much. So this whole summer and into the fall when the weather was nice, I was just trying to explore as many things as possible, and I have like a long list of things I want to do in the spring. Like, it made me realize I'm always traveling elsewhere to see these things, but like, why am I not doing it in my own
Yeah, that's the same thing. Like I said, and I said I'm one of those, we're like fortunate to be one of those areas that like we're in the DMV area, so we got
you have a lot.
So my job is like, you can't leave that little bubble, and I'm like, cool, because some plenty of stuff to do. A lot of black, especially in DC, it's a lot of,
black-owned places.
In Maryland.
Chocolate, Baltimore.
Chocolate as it used to be. It's kind of.
I know. Yeah. When I've heard that term, I was like, I feel like my time in DC hasn't been that chocolate, but
it's definitely been diluted a little bit.
Kind of Marble City,
some German chocolate. It's not,
it's a swirl.
Good. Hey, so it's all good. But like I said, I want to say thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
And you really gave us some good tips and stuff, like some do's and don'ts, and just hearing like how you travel and how I'm gonna steal some of them ideas. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I definitely want to actually just stay in touch. Anytime you want to come back on the show, you're more than welcome. Just give us a holler. And because we love to just, like I said, this is a conversation.
No, and it felt that way. So I also want to thank the two of you. I love what you're doing. You also like are two dope people. And so I think you also deserve like a lot more attention. So I'm definitely going to continue to shout you out because I think you're doing a great thing. And it really just felt like a conversation with two friends. So
and that's what, that's like I said, that's what we're going for. Like I said, I always tell people that I'm just trying to make the world smaller. Like
that's it.
It's not having so big where it's like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, you know what I'm saying? So especially I feel like in the Black community, like a lot of times we kind of standoffish a little bit, or we always, saying stuff like that. This leads from my point of view, that I just want to say, hey, hello. I don't, I don't want nothing from you. I'm here to harm you. I don't want, anything, Curtis. Hi.
Yeah, I just want to show love.
That's it. So, like I said, one last time, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. And I guess, till next time. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.